All right, so today was retake day, your first like experience with how the 3-day cycle works, and that's really how that's gonna work for every unit test. Every unit test, you first just take it, then the next day you correct it for like class participation points. And the next day you retake it. And if you're ever absent for any part of that, you just take it whenever you return, okay? Hopefully, you're never absent for the corrections activity because there's no way to like re-emulate that. There's no other time you would get to sit with some of your classmates and talk about how each of you did on the test and help each other. Those days always, to me, are like the most valuable. And of course, getting that cheat sheet so you can take notes on it and be able to use that on the retake. That to me is really valuable. But should you ever miss that correction day, then you just use the study guides, you email me if you have questions. But again, like if you never ask, you will never know. You'll struggle with the same thing if you never ask about it. So hopefully, like you now believe me when I say like the retake is really similar to the first one. It's the same exact skills. Or like when I say the study guides are closely aligned to the test, like they are. So you can believe me now that that's true. So yeah. Yesterday in math lab was like our last like unit 1 day. So I will be disabling submissions to the unit 1 homeworks here pretty soon. So if you had one that you were missing, then you can like hurry up and submit that before I disable it. But technically the deadline was Monday, so just be aware of those deadlines and things like that. But I think 2 out of my 3 algebra sections, I was able to update those scores already for the online part. And when that happens, I also, any quizzes that were lower than your unit test score, I will bump up to that same amount. So if you got zeros on your quizzes, but you got an 80% on your unit test, I made both of those quizzes 80%. I mean, if your quizzes were higher, I don't bring those down at all, but that's also another incentive. Like, for example, one of my athletes who is in a different algebra 1-2 class yesterday was really stressing because she was failing and had to go retake the quiz. And I'm like, girl, we have 150 assessment points going in the grade book. Can you just do better on the test that's coming up, please? She still went and we took her quiz, and I think she did fine on it. But I was like, do you understand the study guide? Okay, great, then you should be doing fine. That's like tomorrow when you take the test, but whatever. Always use the quizzes as checkpoints. You always get to see how you did. When I have everyone take it, I make it viewable. You can do corrections to help you maintain your grade for that moment. But really, like you saw how it affected you in the grade book, the unit test is your grade. Okay, and we will have 5 unit tests this semester. I don't want to stress you out at all, but like this semester is the most like content heavy. Next semester, we have 3 units that are like more tougher units, if you will, but we also have state testing next semester too. So that's why we have like 5 units. We're gonna start with like a pre-algebra lesson in unit 2 for today. But yeah, like I already have all this stuff made that's coming up. I have our study guides ready. I don't know. I don't want to publish them yet and overwhelm everyone, but pretty soon, probably after at least the first week, I will make them viewable and you could already start preparing for the next one. Okay. But yeah, I saw that a lot of my math lab kids did exceptionally well on the unit 1 test, which is great. Let's keep that momentum going. If you did not do super well on it, even after the retake, anytime that we're free in here during math lab, you could correct it for half points back. Or like in my Friday office hours, you can do the same thing. Hopefully the 1 retake is all you need, but that's, I don't want you to just be out of luck if you both tests, okay? But we are gonna move on. Our next unit, unit 2, is split into 2 parts, because otherwise it would be a really long unit. Unit 2, part 1 is about linear equations and systems of linear equations. Do those sound familiar at all? Okay, when something is linear, what is, tell me anything about linear equations that you remember. Okay, they're straight lines. What else? Anything? Well, luckily, we will be revisiting all of that. So the first part of the unit, unit 2, part 1 is linear equations and then systems of linear equations. Unit 2, part 2 is inequalities and systems of linear inequalities. So a bit of review from middle school, but don't worry if you're like, man, I didn't understand it back then. We're gonna go over it again. But one of the lessons that I don't necessarily get to give in algebra is about translating mathematical expressions. So that's what we're gonna do today. And very rarely do we have lessons in math lab. I try not to make it like double the work. So there will maybe be, in addition to this one, maybe like 8 other lessons. So usually every like retake day, you'll have like a lesson to help you with the upcoming unit. So for this, you just have to take good notes, make sure we're listening and participating. Your point. And also hang on to these notes with like the binder text. Right, and if you have a headphone in, you can put it away. Yes. All right. So word problems tend to be a big, I don't know, fear, something that people skip. You have to be able to translate statements into like numbers and symbols. So that's what we're gonna cover today. You'll know that you're successful if by the end you can recognize signal words that tell you to group things, that tell you to add or subtract, to multiply or divide. And if you can perform operations in the right order, those are all the things that we are revisiting today. I record all the time, as you know, so lessons you can find in the slides for Math Lab. And there will be a practice with it. Don't worry, it's like gonna be not that many questions, but it'll just be like a check for understanding. I'll give that to you later. Friendly reminder, if you have not turned in your binder check, or if you got a low score on it and need to resubmit it, then make sure you do so as soon as possible. Pretty soon I'll stop reminding you. You should already see how it affected your grade. So if you want to remediate that, this is the only thing in the project category right now. So say you bombed it, this would be something that brings up your grade when you submit it, okay? Yeah. Our next quiz won't be until next Friday, so learning new stuff for a while. All right. So you have this in front of you. Together, we're gonna come up with some signal words that tell us to do each of these things. So table 4, can you give me something that tells me to add, like a phrase you've heard? Okay, more than. So like 4 more than 3 is 7. 4 more than a number, like 4 plus X, that tells me that you would be adding. Table 9, can you give me another phrase that tells me to add? Sorry. Okay, sum tells me to add. The sum of 2 numbers is 10. Table 5, can you give me another phrase that tells me to add? Okay, all together. I'll take it. Table 7, any other phrases that tell you to add? No, can't think of any. Anyone else can think of some? All right, I'm gonna give you a couple. Definitely increase by. So a number increased by 7, without meaning that we're adding 7. Total. And there's one more, like, what do we call this sign?
Addition.
Something else I'm looking for? A plus sign, but they just say plus, that also tells you to add. Maybe that one was too obvious, maybe that's why we missed that one. Okay, but if you hear those phrases, they're telling you that you need to add or combine the things. Combine also means add, if you wanna put that in there. So like when we say combine like terms, we want you to add them together. All right, now subtraction phrases are kind of the opposite of our addition phrases. So what are some? Let's just like kind of make a list. Austin? Less. Kaden? Take away. Massimo? Less than. Any others?
Minus.
Minus.
Actually.
Any other? Sorry, what was that? Different. Cadence. Decrease by. Any others? Like Jalen, did you have your hand up?
How much more?
Okay, how much more? I don't know about that one. I know I think you're seeing it from that poster over there, but like, I don't know about that one. I don't know that one always tells you to subtract. But any others you guys can think of? So the less than, we're gonna kind of put a star next to. Also, if you can squeeze this in there, subtracted from. And then like kind of star that one. The reason why we are starring those is because order matters in subtraction, right? Like 5 minus 7 is not the same as 7 minus 5. Order doesn't matter in addition, right? You could do 2 plus 7 and 7 plus 2 and it's the same. But subtraction order matters. When you see these phrases that we starred, like subtracted from and less than, I'm highlighting those words specifically because those should tell you that they're like switch words. So like if I did, I don't know, 3 subtracted from 12. Okay, think about what it is. Don't tell me. Think about it. Is it 3 minus 12 or 12 minus 3? Raise your hand if you think it's 3 minus 12. Raise your hand if you think it's 12 minus 3. Okay, so good. That's what we mean by like switch. So ordinarily you just read it from left to right. But whenever you see phrases like subtracted from or 3 less than 12, I'll also put that over here too. 3 less than 12. These are both equal to it being 12 minus 3. Okay, that's what we mean by those are like switch words. Question? Otherwise, they just go in the order that they're read. Like if you did 10 minus 2, it would be 8, the answer. All right, things like that. All right, now what about some words that imply multiplication? Some words that tell you to multiply, cadence, time. Any others, Massimo? Okay. You're not wrong. Others?
Isn't what? Some.
No, some is strictly addition, but multiplication is repeated addition, but not quite what we're looking for. Austin? Product, you said? Okay. Can we have a different one? I think you have to be, like, it have to follow like time. Or something like that. Other questions or things for multiplication? All right, on my list, we have of. That's just what my list says. I don't really have a good example for of right now. Twice would be multiplying by what? Good, so that twice would be multiplying by 2. What else is multiplying by 2? Double. Right, twice or double would be specifically multiplying by 2. And let's see, triple as well is on my list, and that one would be specifically what? Multiplying by 3. Normally, I don't use the X for multiplication anymore. You should probably stop doing that too, if that's something you like to do. We either just put them in parentheses now, or put a dot, but we're gonna be using X a lot and it's not gonna be for multiplication, so try to stop doing that. All right, now for division, what are some words that tell you to divide?
3 times 5.
Quotient, good. Quotient. I don't know. No, I've never heard them say like 3-4. Huh? Divide, like divide by, basically, or divided by.
Division.
Anything else? Yeah. Yes. Half, good. Half would be dividing by what specifically? Okay, good. Any others we can think of? I feel like with division, they're pretty straightforward. But you could say they also have separate. So I don't know if they want to say separate into 4s or something like that. That's what they have on here. They also have like, in addition to half, they have third, which would be dividing by 3. Things like that. Side note, if you didn't already know, the division sign can also be like a fraction bar. That's what they're showing you right here, or like a slash in your calculator. That tells you to divide. So it's the numerator by the denominator. Does order matter in division? Yes, order matters in division. Does order matter in multiplication? Doesn't matter in multiplication. Just so you know, that's a property. I forget what it's called. I want to say it's commutative or associative, but doesn't matter for addition or multiplication, the order. For subtraction and division, it does. So now here's some phrases that would imply that you're using parentheses or other grouping symbols. So whenever it says, for example, times the sum of, you would technically have to add first, whatever that sum is. If we're like saying times the sum of this and this, you have to add first before you multiply. Otherwise, if you just follow normal order of operations. Are you guys familiar with order of operations? Okay, Penn does. I like doing gems because I feel like that makes less mistakes. But we have grouping symbols. Sorry, I'm right ugly. But grouping symbols, which would include things like parentheses and brackets and absolute value bars, all that stuff. E is for what? Exponents. Sorry, I know this is an ugly illustration, but it's important, so. Exponents, the M is for what? Good, they're in the same step, maybe I'll write down one here. So multiplication and division. From left to right. Because it will vary, like sometimes you'll multiply first, sometimes you'll divide first. It just depends what comes first from left to right, so that's why they're in the same set. And then what does the S stand for? Yes. Subtraction and addition. Because that also is in the same set. In case you didn't know. Luckily, in this class, we use calculators a lot, so you might not have to worry about order of operations as much. If you just know how to use your calculator. But I don't know, some people are stubborn, and if that's the case, you need to know your order of operations. Addition and subtraction are in the same set. Stop talking. Okay, but yeah, other parentheses phrases would be like times the difference of slash between. That's our last phrase we have for that one. I'm sure you can think of other examples. The difference of blah, blah, blah. That would imply that you have to subtract first, so that's where you would need parentheses, because normally the rules say not to do that first. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, now those turnaround phrases are what we starred earlier. If you just want to list them here, that's like our switch phrases. That was less than. And what's the other one? Subtracted from. If you hear those, you don't go in the order that you read it, you switch the order. Yes, question? Yes, I know, think about it. All right, so unfortunately, I don't get to like formally go over that with the rest of my students, so you guys will just have like that extra little bit of knowledge. Translating into expressions or equations is one of the harder things for students to understand, so that's why we're spending time doing it. We're gonna do a few examples, and then we are going to do the practice. So first, we have the product of a number and 3. So that word product tells me to do what? And I'm multiplying a number. Did they specify what number? So what do I do with my unknown? A variable. You can use X. I like to use N whenever they say of a number, but it doesn't really matter. Just pick a letter. So product of a number and 3, we said product means multiply. So we're multiplying a variable times 3. Please don't use an X for multiplication anymore. Please don't. It's confusing. If you write it without the symbol, then technically the number would have to go first. Like you don't want to write N3, that would still tell you to multiply. The only other way that I would want you to write this, other than like 3 times n or something, would be with the parentheses. Those also implicate multiplication. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Let's look at the sum of twice a number and 7. So we're looking at number 5. All right, what does sum tell me to do? So we'll be adding in this. Twice tells me to do what? Or multiply by. And what am I multiplying 2 by? A number that we don't know, so like a variable. Do it like that. You could even put it on the other side, because does order matter in addition? Does not matter in addition. But we're doing sum of twice a number and 7. You could have written it like this. You could have written it like this. I guess technically you could put parentheses around this, but you don't need to when there's nothing else in the problem, so. Up to you on that one.
That's okay, well,
Well, you wouldn't want to put parentheses around this part. Because, it said twice a number. Like it didn't say the sum of a number and 7. Does that make sense? Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that. Because that would be different. For what you wrote down, it'd have to be the sum of a number and 7 times 2. I mean, I could be wrong and I could check the key, but I think I might really go with that. Other questions on this first one that you want to try? Do we know the 4 subtracted from a number? Is it gonna be 4 minus n or n minus 4? N minus 4. Because remember, from is like a switch word. Ordinarily, the 4 would come first, but since we saw that like switch phrase, you switch the order, right? Has to be that one, no other variation. No. Order matters in subtraction. All right, let me give you some to try on the back that we will check. You could try 7. You try 8. This one down here is where it becomes equations. What do equations have to have? It's kind of in the word, almost. Equal signs, good. So in this one, you're looking for phrases that would tell you to use an equal sign, like is. Or, total, I know you said could also be addition, but they could say the total is this, okay? So out of these, I will have you try. $13. And 16. Okay, so I'm gonna list what I asked you to do here on the top. So it's 7, 8, 13, and 16. Okay, try those, maybe talk to the people in your group, and we'll review those before I give you the practice. Okay. So for 7 and 8, those are shown. 4 less than a number squared. There can't be another variation for that one. Squared means an exponent, an exponent to the power of 2, so that's what that is. N squared, a number squared, it could be x squared, that's fine. Yes? It cannot be 4 minus n squared, unfortunately. It has to be n squared minus 4. because we have that phrase less than. Whenever you see the word than, just think you have to switch to. Okay, good question. Other questions? Or less than a number squared. 8 was twice the number divided by 5. You could write it either of these ways. If you included parentheses, it would have to be around this in order for it to still make sense, but you don't technically need parentheses for that. Because in our order of operations, you would just do from left to right anyway. So I don't need parentheses around the 2x. So I would have to multiply those first anyway. Okay? So it could be that or that. Fraction bar means divide, so it could be that. Good there? Okay, scrolling down to the other two I had you try. These were a little more challenging. This is what we'll spend time working toward in algebra. These are equations because they have equal signs in there. Expressions do not have equal signs. So, and all you had to do is translate it. You did not have to solve. You just had to make it an equation. So I have 1/2 of a number. You could write it like this or like this, because 1/2 is dividing by 2. But timesing by 1/2 is the same as dividing by 2. So you could have written it both ways like that. But the other side does have to be n-8. It cannot be 8 minus n. It says is, so equals 8 less than the number itself. So that says that you're using the same number as this side, but it has to be the same letter. You can't use a different letter. Good? Okay, no, not one. Okay, let's look at 16. Maybe it'll click. I don't know. 4 less than the product of the number and 7. So less than. Ordinarily, when you're reading it, you would think like 4 minus, right? But since we have than in there, you have to switch it. Have to make it now -4. Product tells you to do what? So we're multiplying a number that we do not know what it is, and 7. Has to be like that, in that order. Is means equals 8 more than that number. So the same number is being used, we just don't know what it is. So we're using it, or x, whatever you use. It can be n-8 if you want, because order doesn't matter in addition. You can test out numbers when you try that. 1 plus 8 is the same as 8 plus 1. Good there? All right, and that's our main focus in unit 1 is equations. Inequalities is like the other half. But just because it might pop up on your practice, I do want to just briefly share with you. This is the less than symbol. This is less than or equal to. This is greater than. And this is greater than or equal to. So equations, we just use an equal sign. Inequalities, it could be either of those 4. And you just have to pay attention to how it's phrased. We're not going to do a whole lot with these right now, but pay attention, look up here. So a number is less than -10. So it's not a number less than -10. It's not minus. We're saying a number is less than -10. That implies an inequality. Good. Or some of these are more like, I don't know, you kind of have to use your common sense. So if it has a speed limit of 55 miles per hour, let's use n and we're comparing it to 55. If the speed limit is 55, am I allowed to be greater than that?
It would be.
Okay, I can be less than that. If the speed limit's 55, can it be 55 exactly?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the limit. So then after you put the equal to part. That's more, not right now, it's gonna pop up on your practice, so you don't want to be confused. What if it says, a minimum number of 5? Let me use a different variable this time, let's use x, and we're comparing it to 5. If my minimum number of 5, that's a phrase, can it be greater than 5?
Yeah,
If the minimum is 5,
yeah,
so I would use greater than, where this can be bigger than 5. If the minimum is 5, can it be exactly 5? So then I'm gonna put the equal to part as well. Side note, this I could also write like this, 5 less than or equal to x. Cause remember, like, in a previous grade, the alligator mouth or whatever wants to eat the bigger number. X is bigger. X is still bigger over there. You could rewrite this one like this 2. And the 55 is still bigger. Okay? Between them. Again, our main focus right now is equations, but you might see it on your practice. So I'm gonna pass this out, and it's just gonna be evens or odds, your choice. You still have 10 minutes, you can probably finish it. Okay. And then that's it. Any questions? There's very few extra lessons we do in here, and this is one of them, so it won't be like this every day. So evens or odds, your choice. I don't know if everyone will finish today, but I'll probably check it tomorrow. Evens or odds. No. I think there's 4, I don't know. You have a.
Oh, but. What?